Today we are going to be specifically looking at my 35mm film cameras. So I will be showing you each camera individually and give a quick story of how I acquired it and a few facts and such. So this right here is the Nikon N75. This was my first film camera. It was one of my parents and it was laying around the house, so I took it as my own. And this is what I learned film photography with. The lens that is currently on there is a Nikon 28 to 80mm 3.3 to 5.6, my apologies, lens. Yeah, this was a great camera to learn on. I've had a lot of great pictures with it. I will insert a picture that I've taken with this camera. So this here is the EOS Rebel XS. This was another one of my parents' film cameras. This was another one that I never shot with quite as much as the Nikon, but I have shot with it a bit, and it is a pretty darn good camera. Currently, the lens that is on this camera is a 35 to 80mm 4 to 5.6 aperture lens. So it's a pretty good camera as well as lens. A nice thing about this camera was my parents actually had a second lens for it, so let me quickly show you that. So this right here is the second lens I have for this Canon camera. It is a 70 to 300 zoom lens. It's not a Canon lens, it's actually just a Quantaray, but it's still a great lens. So this one shoots 70 to 300 and has an aperture of 4 to 5.6. So this is another one of my parents' cameras. I believe they actually got this at an antique store many years back. So sadly, it doesn't work. The shutter button is sadly broken and stuck. If I could fix it, I would, but it appears I can't. Anyway, this one is the Kodak Automatic 35 camera. It was pretty cool looking, so I'm sad I never got to shoot with it. I don't know quite much about this camera as I've never shot with it, but I thought I'd show it quickly. So this right here is the Tower 32A. This was the first film camera that I purchased. Well, sort of. I actually got this camera for free because it had a broken light meter when I got it. The person who previously owned it didn't want it anymore as it had a broken light meter. But while I sort of learned first on that Nikon, I only used that for a couple of weeks before I went to a camera store and managed to pick this up, and I immediately fell in love with this camera. So this was the first camera I shot fully manually with, and I adore this camera. May not be the best. A lot of things with this camera have a tendency to break. So this camera has been put into retirement since. So this is the next camera I have. It is the Mamiya Seeker. Another fun little story that came with purchasing this camera. I was at an antique show and my tower had just broken and I could not fix it. So I needed a new film camera, and this was the first one I found. Truly, it's not my favorite camera. It's probably my least favorite. So I've shot with it a bit. I probably shot with it for about 2 weeks before I purchased my latest film camera and the one that I have been using since, and it's my favorite one. But this one, it's pretty good. I don't really have much to say about this one, sadly. I just never really fell in love with it, but I purchased this camera for under $10, which is the main reason I purchased it, because had it been any more, I probably wouldn't buy it. Some people might like it. It wasn't my film camera of choice, but it's been pretty good. So on to my final camera. So this right here is my Nikon Nichromat film camera. Now this is the camera I always shoot for film. So it took me a while to finally find my camera that I really love, but this is it. Maybe it's not the greatest camera in the world, but I do very much love it. So this camera has a aperture size of 2 all the way up to 16. Here is the focus. It focuses really nicely. Right here is this, and the exposure count works, which maybe some people find that normal. I think this is the first camera I've owned film-wise, except for my first Nikon, to have a working exposure count, which I greatly appreciate. And in addition, this has a working light meter, which works very well. And I think, don't quote me on this, but this is one of the earlier cameras, not first, but one of the earlier cameras to have an in-camera light meter, as in you can see it through the viewfinder. So I really love this camera. I love the way it shoots. It just feels so nice to shoot with. This has been my film camera collection. I hope it was interesting. Thank you for watching. Bye!